at this point, I think we could have some comments from the audience if anyone wishes to. Would like to have a statement? Okay. How many people, first of all, want to make comments? 2? Okay. All right. Well, you can have half of 15 minutes, I guess, if you like.
I won't take that much time.
All right.
Kevin Leandro, 98 Gunstock Hill. This body, Secretary of Checklist, is by definition a apolitical party and body. And I believe you fine ladies have done a great job keeping it that way. And it's really unfortunate you get tossed into this situation. This is a politically motivated challenge. Nothing else. I mean, Barbara here, to some, could be considered controversial. Some people don't like her opinions. No offense, Barbara.
It's okay. I can take it.
And Mr. Warnick being one of them. He didn't challenge Lindsay or Dan. Is it Dan?
Daniel, yeah.
Dan's residency. They have the exact same situation. But they're not politically active. It's her political activism that ironically helps prove her residency. And that's what disturbs Mr. Warnick the most. And it's very unfortunate he brought this challenge with the little bit of manufactured evidence that he did. It's very unfortunate that he took all this time. I understand you fine ladies had a few meetings that outside the normal of your operations. Took your time away from your family, your businesses, took countless hours of Bob's time assembling all this evidence, and she's here not with her family, not spending time on her business. I know other people, I know Mr. Murphy took a day out of work, and yet Joe Warnick couldn't bother to be here. There's other things I need to be doing right now, but I felt it was important to come here and speak to you all about this issue. I have a neighbor. Some of you all know him. I'm not going to. Who traveled pretty extensively this past winter and recruited me to go check. He's got a little cottage on Governor's Island, not far from Barbara's, just around the corner. Seasonal cottage, and he recruited me to go once a week, go check on it and make sure the circulator at the docks was still operating, and there wasn't much of a snow load on the roof, which really wasn't an issue this year. And, you know, so I did throughout most of the winter, and I drove past Barbara's 2 homes, and it was ironic, you know, Christmas time, there was Christmas decorations up in 558 Edgewater Drive, which was really strange for somebody that, you know, comes here a few times during the summer. The driveway was always plowed at 558 Edgewater Drive. The home that, is it 556?
554.
554 wasn't always, it was on occasion plowed, but the main domicile was always plowed. I mean, I think that's pretty important. I mean, if you're not here in the winter, plowing the driveway is not really a big issue, is it? I've attended functions at Barbara's house. As a member of the budget committee, I can personally vouch. Well, look, here's her jacket. This is her seat. It's almost got her name on it. That's where she sits almost every single meeting. She sits in that same seat. I attend a lot of public meetings. It's something I do, and probably more active than most residents. And just about every public meeting, whether it be selectmen, planning board, zoning board, I can almost guarantee that Barbara's going to be sitting right there in that seat, which makes it very, very difficult for somebody that lives, what, 40 miles from here, 50 miles from here. So it's a baseless charge based on politics alone. The net result that Mr. Warnick was trying to accomplish was create some publicity, ruin her chances for an election. Whether or not that hurt her or help her, I'll leave that somebody else to decide. But the fact that he didn't even bother to show up today means that, and the time is questionable. The fact that he didn't show up tells me that this was purely politically motivated to affect the results of the election, which may, ironically, be a violation of the law in itself. I respectfully ask you fine ladies to rule in favor of Ms. Eichinger. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good morning. My name is David Skip Murphy at 9 Guilford Glen Road, and I just wanted to come to authenticate the email that Mrs. Eichinger read earlier. I am the co-founder and owner of GraniteRock.com. I also have a second website that is devoted strictly to matters here in Guilford called Guilford Grok. And between the two, I have posted several videos of Mrs. Eichinger in political activities concerning the town, mostly at Guilford Grok, and as she indicated earlier, on other political entities, and those videos have been posted at Granite Grok. There is a Granite Grok YouTube channel at which all of those videos are posted. There's almost 1,200 videos at this point. By all means, I give you full permission to download those, use those as you need during your deliberations. And I would point out that I would find it highly irregular for somebody not invested in Guilford to come to all of the public meetings that she has here concerning just the town proceedings. You will see on those videos that during the deliberative sessions, both on the school and the town, she is present in those videos. Why would a non-resident, non-voter wish to participate actively in those meetings? I will also speak to the other political events. It's a long trek up here to Guilford for any political candidate not representing this particular district or area. And yet this is where she chose to have her political events. I will tell you, as a political blogger, it would be far more efficient, because time is of the essence for almost any candidate for political office, to have done this down in Bedford. But to buttress her argument that she is invested in her Guilford domicile, she chose to have them up here. And I would like to ask that you consider that as part of your deliberations. On a second matter, I was sort of surprised to see the counselor here this afternoon, or this morning. And I would like to ask, because it will show up on the check registry that will be posted to the town website, something that I and Selectman Gus Benavides helped to move on. So eventually we would know the cost of your services, but may I ask, what does your firm charge town for your services?
We're charging the same hourly rate for this work as we're charging for the work we're doing on the cable television consortium renewal.
And that
so mine is $100 and I think it's $60 an hour.
I note with no small amount of irony that Joe Wernick has oftentimes complained about certain activists here in town costing the town money because of their activism. And I noticed that now it is his turn to cost the town additional monies for his political activity, for which he will be reminded of. And I find it just fairly irregular that for him to complain about money spent where now he has done the same thing. And I would ask that you consider that in your deliberations as well. Councilor, I do have one question for you. The previous speaker, Kevin Leandro, mentioned that there might be a statute that would prohibit such an activity that Mr. Wernick seems to have done. Can you verify that there is such a statute or an RSA?
Right. What I can tell you is the statutes that Connie has provided are really pretty much what covers the situation. We had a very helpful meeting with David Scanlon, who's the Deputy Secretary of State, to kind of go over what are the statutes. The statute on a challenge to a voter that's made to the supervisors of the checklist to what's called correct the checklist, saying this person is not qualified for some reason. It's a very brief statute. It's about this long. It doesn't provide a whole lot of information. The challenge can be made by any person. It doesn't need to be a registered voter. Motive is immaterial in terms of the supervisor's analysis. They need to just look at the challenge, look at the information provided by the challenged voter, and make their decision. So there's nothing in the statutes pertaining to a challenge to the qualifications of a voter that talks about whether or not a challenge is made in good faith.
Well,
Does that help?
It does help. I'm disappointed because I kind of see this as a resident of Guilford and as a political activist myself, is sort of the political equivalent of a slap suit. And I think Kevin Leandro covered and as well as Mrs. Eichinger covered the effects of perhaps influencing the election negatively for Mrs. Eichinger's run. And I didn't know if there was any recourse that perhaps the town should be taking through the supervisors of the checklist for somebody who has allegedly or fraudulently brought such a challenge.
There's nothing in the statutes that really looks to why someone would bring a challenge. The supervisors have to look at the merits of the challenge. Mr. Scanlon did mention that this is an area of the statutes that is constantly in front of the legislature. And my understanding is that this past week there was a hearing on an amendment to the challenge, not for this correction to the checklist, but for a challenge to someone who is showing up to vote, that would have allowed folks to make challenges without providing any kind of a written documentation. You know, potentially could just stand at the table and challenge each person that comes up to vote without any basis whatsoever. I don't think that particular bill has gotten anywhere. I think that that's been,
that has been done away with.
Yeah, but it's an issue that is, from what I understand, constantly reviewed. It's constantly under consideration. It certainly goes to the very core of people's, fundamental democratic rights, their rights to vote, and ensuring that the town has folks who are voting who are entitled to vote. And clearly, people care about both pieces of that, making sure that people who are voting really are appropriate voters, and making sure that everybody who wants to vote has the ability to do so. But it's an area the legislature seems to be looking at a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't more that comes up having to do with this.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. The RSA that she cited is in this package of RSAs is 65436A, request to correct the checklist. If you wish to take a copy of that. What was Ms. Eichinger's statement being completed? Maybe we should take a short recess, and then the supervisors will debate together about how they view all this information, and we may decide that we need more time to study it or not, depending on what we look at as we start to go through it. And like I said, we may very well have some questions of you, Barbara, as we go along, or at the end, or however we do it. So if we want to take about a 10-minute break, does that work for you guys? Sure. That's it. All right. I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Croc TV.